Are you one of those people that you say something and it lands really well and everybody totally gets it, but then you say something else and it's almost like you're talking to nobody and they think you got four heads on your head? That's how I feel most times. I'm either really clear or I've completely missed the mark. So if you can resonate and feel the same, this episode is definitely for you. My name, as you know, is Leslie Urbis. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. But as you know, I like to personally say I am a selfless overachiever in recovery, working to wholly embrace herself. And as you know, on this channel, we really talk about the myths that we were told. And my guest today, Becca Francis, is somebody that's really going to help with this because let me tell you, when I started my business, I was told post a certain way, post at different times, post this. I think I could write a book of all the rules I've learned from all of the coaches of what I've had to do. But no matter how many times I followed this or said it the way they told me, nothing ever resonates as much as every once in a while when I land on that one thing that everybody just gets. So I'm excited for our conversation today. How are you today, Becca?
I'm good, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm pumped. So this all kind of started because of one of your main posts on your Instagram profile, which talks about from a coaching perspective to really talk from, your, I think you said your open centers when you're coaching versus
Coach.
something else. But before we jump into that, I want to know how you got started, a little bit more about you and how you really help the world through human design.
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you so much. So I'm Becca Francis. I live in Australia now. We've lived here for 20 years, originally from London. And how did I find human design? Really interesting story. I was in my corporate job here in Australia, and I'd been trying for about 15 years to get out of that corporate job. Corporate doesn't suit me at all. I really push the boundaries. Now, looking at my human design chart, I can see exactly why. But back then, I didn't know. So I tried all sorts of things to get out of that job and into my own business. I tried wedding planning. I tried selling t-shirts, jewelry, dog products. I tried everything and nothing worked. And it got to the point in end of 2019 where I just thought I'm not cut out for business. I'm doomed to be in corporate forever, which is great. Some people flourish and I respect that. I didn't. So around the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I did a web design course and I thought, oh, I'll start a business doing web design. So I did that and started working for a spiritual entrepreneur group. And in that group, I came across the phrase human design. And I'd never heard it before. To be honest, Leslie, I thought it sounded kind of strange. I was like, human design, that sounds a bit like AI to me. That sounds a bit, no, I'm not sure about that. But then it came up again, and then it came up again, and it kept coming into my awareness. So I started looking into it, and in true generator style, so we're both generators, we can talk about that later, but all of a sudden, overnight, I became obsessed with human design. I took every course, I read every book. It was just fascinating to me. To be honest, when I first saw my chart, I kind of snapped my laptop shut and walked away. I thought I will never understand that, never in a million years. It's way too complex for me. But it kept coming back and kept coming back. And I learned human design and I started coaching. That was in March 2020. And by the September that year, I went part-time in my job. And by the November, I'd left completely after
Oh,
15 years of trying to start a business. Because once I found human design and I understood my own energy and stopped trying to be like everyone else, it was like the universe went, finally, she's got it. She's cracked it, finally. And all the kind of, I call them the tectonic plates of my life started to move underneath me. And before I knew where I was, I found myself in this business. So, and that was nearly 4 years ago now. So that's how I
that's
found human
amazing.
design.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah. I will tell you, and because we're having a great candid conversation here about the generator thing, I
Mm-hmm.
had never heard of it either. And funny, I didn't become aware of it until 2021. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually had a friend at the time tell me because I gave her some help with some online stuff that she wanted to tell me about my human design. Unknowingly, I gave it to her. And I know it was a miscommunication, but she said when I was trying to be like, well, I don't understand how it just hasn't happened yet. her words to me were, Leslie, you're a generator. You're not a manifester. You can't be a manifester, so it won't happen the way that you think it's going to happen. And I understand that now, even on a higher level, but at that moment I was like, well, then I might as well just give up because I'm not a manifester, so it's not going to happen, right? So I
Yeah.
refused to look until many years later in 2023, I think was the next time I actually took a look. Maybe a little dabble in 2022 when somebody explained to me that I could use my sacral yes, no in a way, which was really helpful. So that was like a little dabble, and then really full force in 2023. And I still have much room of improvement, but I took a course in 2023 for parenting by human design to help me parent my children. And that was absolutely helpful. So when I saw this about business, I was like, okay, I'm thoroughly intrigued because I know that this will be a great conversation. So I kind of want to know more of, the difference between, if I'm coaching to coach from an open center, we can explain that a little bit versus when I'm posting, like as you stated, my posts that go viral are because I'm speaking from a closed center. And I'd love to just hear more and to dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really, really glad actually, just before I go there, that you shared that story about somebody saying to you, well, unknowingly, you can't do this, you're that, you must do this. With human design, it's really designed not to put you in a box. It's not a personality test. It's literally a look at your energy. I see it as kind of an X-ray of your energy. And for me, it helped me climb out of a box that society had put me in. Well, you're 48, like it's kind of all over now. Like you've made your bed, you lie in it, incorporate that kind of energy. So it really helped me step outside of that. And I'll just say for everybody listening, yes, human design can give you really clear signposts as to where your energy works really powerfully, but you can do anything you want to and work any way you want to. So I really like to focus on the fact that human design doesn't take anything away from you and restrict you. It just says, do it however you want to do it, but here's a kind of no-brainer way for your energy. Like if you want to have it a bit easier and you don't want to come up against all these roadblocks, this is how your energy works. So I think it's important just to kind of lay the foundation there first. So if we look at, so first of all, for anyone that's listening, if you don't have your chart, you can go to, there's several different softwares that will give you a free chart. And there's Jovian Archive, mybodygraph.com. If you go there, just put your birth details in there, that will give you your chart. So if you haven't come across human design before, go do that and then come back and then you'll be able to see what we're talking about. So when you look at the chart, there are 9 different centers. Some of the centers are colored in, doesn't matter what color they are. Some of them are white. So what does that mean? What that actually means is where the centers are colored in, like for you, Leslie, I'm looking at your chart here, you have a colored in head center. So your head center is defined. The head center is the center of questions and ideas and inspiration. So what that means is you have consistent access to energy in your head center. You have a fixed way of, and fixed isn't bad, a specific fixed way of asking questions, of viewing the world. Your perception is very kind of fixed. I have an open head center. So what that means is I see all the different ways that people create ideas. I see all the different ideas in the world. I see how they come to be. So those are 2 very different energies that we're coming from. You have consistent access to head center energy. I don't. My head center energy depends on who's around me. So right now, I'll be picking up on your head center energy. And I can feel that as a pressure because that's open for me. So we tend to look at the white centers in human design sometimes and say, okay, well, I don't have that. So for me, I don't have a defined head center. I don't have consistent access to energy. But that's not the way human design works. For you, you're perfectly designed that you have consistent access to energy there. For me, I'm perfectly designed in that I don't, because we come to the earth plane to learn these different things. So what does that mean in business? So I teach my students to coach from their open centers, because from your open centers, you can see very clearly how your clients are operating, how they're using that. For instance, for you, if I was coaching you, I can see very clearly how you're using your head center energy, because I can see that. So if it's in shadow for any reason, then I can help you into alignment there. So that's the power of the open and the power of the defined. So I have an open head and open ego, which makes me a talented mindset coach and a talented money coach, because the ego is connected to the material world. So for you, you have 1, 2, 3, 5 open centers. So there are many different coaching gifts you could lean into: communication, money, emotions, burnout, and fear, health, and intuition. So it's quite fitting that you're a health coach. I know I'm not going to kind of put you in that box, but that's, you know,
okay.
when I look at your YouTube, I'm like, that's kind of where I have you. So that's why I talk about coaching from your open centers, because you can see your client at a very deep level. But it also means there is some work for me, if I was coaching you, around my open head center, to make sure that I don't have old stories and shadows going on in there, because I'm going to very easily pick up on your energy there. So I have to be very careful that my centers, I've done some work around those. So I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to make that as clear
Yeah,
as
totally. I mean, I was actually thinking about this the other day, really yesterday, because I'm 38. I'm about to be 39, as you saw my birthday.
Mhm.
It's in October. And somebody said to me not long ago, it's easy for you to say because you haven't reached your 40s as a woman yet. And I was like, well, that is really rude. And it actually stuck with me, because I haven't healed that yet. I'm not 40. I'm
Mm.
not 40. I
Mm.
don't know what that is. I don't know what it feels like. You're correct. However, my story has always been that I get to create my health, right? I get to create my health, much like I get to create my life, right? It's my choice. It's my thoughts. It's how I want to create, because I'm the creator of my life. And I
Mm.
just kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, but what if there is something I can't control? And what if that
Mm.
person's right, to heal the story? And that's when I just realized that there is no story. There's nothing there, because the truth comes from me being solidified in the fact that I'm envisioning myself the way that I want to vision myself. And yes, that might mean that, between 40 and 80 years old, I gain 10 pounds. Yes, that
Mm.
might mean between 40 and 80, I have some other things that happen. Even a shaman can't see everything, right? I know people
Mm.
that have worked with shaman that wind up with big heart attacks. It's like, I couldn't see that. I could only see something coming, right? And so, yeah, so I love this thought process, because I would agree, from a coaching point, you have to know that sometimes your client might trigger you potentially, and that it's how you are around it. So it's really good to hear, because as that person had said that to me, I was like, okay, I'm noticing I'm triggered. And it's because I haven't been able to create a story yet. I'm
Mm.
creating the story I want to have when I'm there. But until
Yeah.
I'm 41, 42, 50, whatever, I don't know until I'm there.
Yeah.
It's just that
Absolutely.
I want to create from the space that I get to create my future. So I love
Yeah.
that. That's a great, I completely understand what you're saying there, in
Mm.
terms of, if you're open, it's great to coach from your open areas, but then also note that you have to coach. And when something is showing you a little bit of your shadow side, your ego side, your dark side, that's where
Yeah.
you still get to do a little bit of work. Doesn't mean you're a bad coach. Doesn't mean you're in the wrong field. It doesn't mean run, you're dumb. It means,
Mm.
hey, this is where you still get to clean up a little bit.
Absolutely. And the way I use it in a coaching relationship is I can run my chart. And say if I was coaching you, I would have my chart and your chart. So I've got 2 auras, and I can run a connection chart, which shows me what happens when we come together in a coaching relationship. So it shows me that 3rd aura. So it shows me exactly where I might quote unquote trigger you, or you might trigger me, or how I can support you at an even deeper level, where you might be struggling with something, or if you are struggling, why? Is it that part of my energy is dominating your energy, or is it vice versa? It's just so illuminating when you can see an X-ray of these 2 energies and how they're working together. Really powerful.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So this is when we're coaching and we're in the coaching space, and I guess really in a life space, right? So me and my husband would form something. I've heard that before about like two people coming together, and my daughter and I are split definition, but when we're together, we're no longer split definition because
Yeah.
we complete each other. So I've heard things
Yeah.
like that. So that's awesome. And really intriguing to hear, from a coaching perspective, and even using that, for myself with the people that I coach and work with to be able to be more helpful for them. But the picture that I go to then is, okay, if I'm open, okay, so let's say I'm open emotionally, as you had stated, okay, and let's say today I'm more emotional today. I'm having a more emotional day around my body, around something, and I want to post from my emotional center. You suggest not to, create a post from an open center, but to come from one of the more defined centers. Talk to me about that, because obviously sometimes I want to speak from a coaching perspective of coaching somebody through a post, but that would come from an open versus a defined. So I'd love to hear how you transition to that.
Yeah, this is a great question. I love that, Leslie. And again, there's no right or wrong, do or don't. You still have that sovereignty regardless of your human design chart. But if we're looking purely at the chart, when I'm creating offers, so in my business, and when I'm posting, what I'm doing is I'm showing people the natural magic that I was born with. And that's the energetic codes that they're then soaking in. So for example, if we take, you and I both have a defined sacral. So when I'm posting, if I'm posting from the energy of that defined sacral, first of all, I have consistent access to that energy every day. It doesn't fluctuate as much as an open center. And I'm able to speak very clearly about how I use my sacral, about taking people behind the scenes of my business. That's very powerful for a sacral type, because people want to see what you do. So for a defined sacral to be talking to an undefined sacral, it's like for the undefined sacral, they're attracted to the energetic codes we have. It's fascinating. It's like almost that kind of, I always describe our defined centers as like a disco glitter ball, whereas the undefined centers are kind of really drawn to it and fascinated by it. That's why for me, it's really powerful, and why I teach my students to post from their defined centers, because there's normally less work to do around those centers as well, because this is the energy that you came into the world with. It's like, oh, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. I understand that. And that's what people who have the opposite of you, so the undefined sacral, are attracted to. They're like, wow, how do you use that energy? And as a duty of care to our clients, it's really incumbent upon us to understand how we affect people with undefined sacrals. Because when they're around us, they feel like they can do anything, like they have all the energy in the world. And then when we leave, they can feel a little bit kind of, oh no, I don't have the same energy as I should have. So it's about teaching our clients, well, this is how you are designed. You're not designed to hold on to sacral energy. If you're a projector, manifestor, reflector, this is how you discharge it. So it's always about this exchange of energy and how we're affecting the other, which is why I teach to create offers and to create posts from those defined centers. Some people in human design teach it differently, but I teach it a specific way. I have a defined ajna, so underneath the head center is the ajna. You have it defined as well. So you and I have fixed perspectives, opinions, strong beliefs. So that's why I teach human design the way I do, through my defined ajna. So if you were to create a post, say for you, from your completely open emotional center, you absolutely can do, all while being cognizant of whose emotions am I picking up today? Because your emotional center is wide open, and it's very easy if you act as a sponge rather than having a screen over that center. If you act as a sponge and soak in the emotions of the people around you, that can mean you're posting from their energy rather than yours. Because the open emotional center makes a fabulous coach. You're able to hold space for people to process their emotion. But if you're not careful, you take in that emotion and ride their emotional wave with them. And then we can feel that responsibility for fixing them. So that's why I teach to post and create from that defined energy. It's for me, it's much easier and more powerful than posting from my open centers.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. I got to tell you, as you were talking, what is the most interesting thing is that when I run human design for clients of mine, I would say 97% have no defined sacral.
Oh, interesting. So you're
Yeah,
attracted to those unsacral types because they're fascinated by your energy. You're
I
a pure
guess.
generator. You're lit up like a Christmas tree, your
Oh,
energy.
interesting.
So they're just drawn to you like a moth to the flame. But then, like I said, it's a duty of care to make sure that our non-sacrals aren't trying to carry your sacral energy with them and think that they can use it and run on it, because they're beautifully designed not to. So it's really important to give them ways to discharge that sacral energy when they've left our container for the day.
Interesting.
Mm.
That's really cool to know. That's really cool to know. And then the other thing I was going to say, so I know, and I'm going to tell them to go to your Instagram, obviously, for ideas of, you know, if you have, once you run your chart on Jovian Archive or wherever you go, to look at your, you know, closed centers, defined centers, and see kind of how she suggests like posts that would work for you from the perspective of that closed nature. I love that. I think it's fabulous. Definitely opened my mind to it. And really, truthfully, potentially more of like, even just in a conversation with somebody, of holding a conversation with someone, why there will be times where I think emotionally, where people are just unsure sometimes of even where to help me. Like if I'm having a more emotional day, like with my husband, and it makes sense. It's most likely because he's like, where is this coming from? Is this even you? Because he's very confused because I am most likely picking up the energy of others. You know, my children don't have defined emotional areas, but my husband does. So I've always just assumed we're all just picking up his energy, but I guess potentially because my kids are exposed to other people and I get exposed to other people through, you know, online, we're still picking up the emotions of them, and they could bring those in and show those off, you know, times 200, and then I pick that up. Even though I've always constantly thought it had to be more of my husband, it is also from outside perspectives of those around us.
Absolutely. Everybody that you're coaching has the potential to influence you in that emotional center. So that's why it's important. For my clients with open emotional centers, I always ask them to visualize a screen over that emotional center when they're coaching. Because, like I said, they can hold space for their clients' emotions, but they're not responsible for fixing. Because if you, as an open emotional center, if you feel your client's emotions, you want to fix them fast so you don't have to feel it anymore. And that fast fix can be like a band-aid kind of a fix, not a deep fix. So it's so important for the open emotional center to visualize that screen and say, yes, I can hold space for you. I can help you, but I'm not responsible for fixing the issue here. That's really, really important.
That's awesome. I love this. Well, this has been a fabulous conversation. Obviously, I just randomly, I don't even know how I found you on Instagram. It was just one of those, probably just one of those, like, you should follow this person. And here I am. But I know they can find you on Instagram, and I will post a link below. But is there anything else or any other way you want them to find you, contact you if they're interested in learning more? How would you like them to do that?
Instagram's the best place. I like to keep it nice and simple. I have a lot of simplicity in my chart. That's how I teach. It's how I coach. So I'm always on Instagram. I'm always hanging out in my DMs. So at the Becca Francis is always where they can find me.
Awesome. All right. That link will be right below this here, wherever you're watching. But thank you so much for this conversation. It has been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for everybody out there that's watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, have a fit and fabulous day. We will see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.